elections. And Governor Babangida Zulum of Borno State has raised an alarm over the resurgence of terrorist attacks on farmers. Hello everyone, welcome to the program. This is Politics Today live on Channels Television. I'm Sean Kimale in Abuja. Let's begin by letting you know that President Bola Tinubu has participated in the closing ceremony of the new Global Financing Pact Summit in France alongside other world leaders. The president departed Nigeria for Paris on Tuesday. For the summit, he used the opportunity of the event to review and sign a new global financial pact that places vulnerable countries on the priority list for support and investment following the devastating impact of climate change, the energy crisis, and the COVID-19 pandemic. Thursday, the president arrived at the Paris summit, where he was received by the French Minister of Foreign Affairs in Europe, Catherine Colonna. He's been having bilateral meetings with various countries, including officials of France, US, and Switzerland, to discuss possible ways of attracting foreign direct investments. Tonight, our focus will be on the plan of INEC to do an appraisal of the 2023 general elections. They said they want to look into what they did wrong, what went wrong, how the process went, and they will begin from the very low level of the organization up onto the highest level. So what does this mean? And also, they're not going to be leaving out any of the stakeholders. They will also be meeting with the stakeholders for the purpose of looking forward to purposeful elections in the future. So you ask the question, so what happens to the tribunal going on across the country, the Presidential Election Tribunal and the state governorship and other tribunals across the country based on the conduct of that election? We'll be getting more insight from experts tonight. Also, we'll look into the security situation in the country under the Bola Tinubu administration. Now, the governor of Borno State has raised an alarm, saying there seems to be some resurgence in counterinsurgency in the country. The president just did a shakeup of the highest rank, setup of the military in Nigeria. Would that amount to anything? Can they hit the ground running in making sure that the attacks that we have heard in parts of Taraba, in Kaduna, in Borno State will be stemmed? We discuss all of these with a very deep insight from my guest tonight, so stick around with me, everyone. But first, let's serve you with a political roundup stories.
The Presidential Election Petition Court has admitted certified copies of academic and work records of President Bola Tinubu tendered by the People's Democratic Party and his candidate Atiku Abubakar. The documents include a BSc certificate from the Chicago State University, NYSC discharge certificate, and Mobile Nigeria PLC certificate of service. The PDP had brought the documents through their subpoenaed witness, Mike Enahu-Reba, who's a private legal practitioner. He notes that the documents were purportedly obtained by Tinubu, but bore the name Bola Adekunle Tinubu. Led in evidence by the lead counsel to PDP, Mr. Chris Uche, the witness also tendered forms EC13 and EC9 nomination forms, and the letters written to the Independent National Electoral Commission INEC as attachments. Meanwhile, under cross-examination led by counsel to Tinubu, Wole Olanikpekun, the witness, Mike Enahu-Reba, says he's not the official custodian of the certificate from the Chicago State University. He states that it was issued to him. He adds that he did not find out if Tinubu renounced his Guinean citizenship. Wole Olanikpekun goes further to tender a document to the court, a letter from the school stating that Tinubu graduated from the school with honors. However, counsel to the PDP, Chris Uche, objects to the admissibility of the letter, but the court admits it as evidence. The three-man governorship election petition tribunal sitting in Abeokuta, the Ogun State capital, has fixed the 4th of July for tendering of documents and 5th of July for the commencement of trial in a petition brought before it by the governorship candidate of the People's Democratic Party, Oladipupo Adebutu, challenging challenging the declaration of Dakwa Abiodun as the winner of the March 18 election in the state. The tribunal had earlier struck out an application by the petitioner seeking to expunge certain paragraphs from the second respondent's reply, saying that the application lacks merit. It also held that the response of the second respondent, Dakwa Abiodun, to the petition of Ladi Adebutu complied substantially with the Electoral Act. Counsel to the petitioner, Adi Adebutu, and the second defendant, Dakwa Abiodun, have however expressed their readiness for the trial based on merit after the pre-trial issues have been trashed out. The Benue State Governor, Reverend Father Hyacinth Alia, has inaugurated a 20-man committee for the recovery of government assets allegedly removed by officials of the Autumn administration, with a warning to be fair and not victimize anyone in the process. The move has generated crisis from the opposition People's Democratic Party, accusing the governor of a desperate attempt to obliterate the PDP, including the sacking of the 23 democratically elected local government chairmen on frivolous grounds of misappropriation. The Taraba State Governor, Mr. Agbu Kefas, has signed an executive order suspending all mining activities in the state. The action, according to the governor, became necessary in view of the danger it poses to the system, leading to the exploitation of vulnerable communities, increased crime rate, and contributes to social unrest, as well as affects the revenue generation of the state. He has now directed law enforcement agencies to go after anyone found violating the order.
In the best interest of our state and its future generations, I am signing this executive order for the immediate suspension of all mining activities.
The governor also says his administration will confront the scourge of insecurity in the state through dialogue and effective collaboration with traditional rulers at the grassroots to find lasting solutions to the age-long crisis. This is sequel to the rising cases of banditry, kidnapping, illegal mining activities, communal clashes, farmer and herder attacks in the state. As well as farmer and herder attacks in the state. The governor was speaking when he held his first meeting with the traditional rulers across the state at the government house in Jalingo.
There you go, you've been served with your political roundup stories. Let's begin, first and foremost, with the matters of national security. The governor of Borno State, Professor Babangana Zulum, has raised the alarm over renewed attacks by suspected Boko Haram terrorists on farmers in communities within the state. Governor Zulum, in a condolence visit to 5 communities in Jere and Mafa local government areas, where 8 farmers and scavengers were brutally murdered, alleged sabotage of efforts to restore security to the troubled state before the murder of 8 scavengers and farmers on Thursday in Shuwari, Kalari, Tamsu, Ngamdua, and Baram, Karamawa, and Muna communities. There are being similar attacks on farmers in Borno communities in recent weeks. Take a listen to Governor Zulum.
I cannot say we have started witnessing resurgence, but within the last few days, we have seen some pockets of attacks, and this will not be allowed to continue like this. I think we have some group of people that are trying to sabotage the efforts of the federal government, that want to create artificial insecurity, and therefore we must rise up to our responsibility and attack the issues squarely. Just yesterday, some people were killed. People cannot have access to their agricultural lands easily. We had access in 2020, 2021, 2022. I see no reason why we can't have access now. But I have seen the army personnel. We shall have a meeting. We shall ensure establishment of a strong mechanism.
Well, a top military source within the army confirmed to China television that a murder of about 16 farmers in Molai and Kayamala communities was because they went 11 kilometers away from the stipulated areas earmarked for farming activities, which they have been warned against. Tinubu government came into force on the 29th of May. Since then, they inherited a lot of problems, including security, financial problems, unity, issues of unity or how to unite this nation. Several other issues are there. They're threatening the existence of our nation. But then how does the Tinubu administration, that's a few days ago, announced a shakeup within the military hierarchy and leadership? How can they face up to some of these challenges? And tonight, we'll be getting insight into all of these issues. And from two experts. One is a researcher, a scholar, and a field consultant on security matters. And the other was a field general who retired from the army. I'm being joined tonight by General Anthony Atolagbe, who is a former field commander of the Joint Task Force of the Nigerian military and also a former commander of Operation Safe Haven. He's also been involved in commanding troops with ECOMOG and all what have you. He's joined us from Obajana virtually in Kogi State. Thank you so much, General, for joining us tonight. You see what is happening, the statement made by Governor Zulum, and you wonder what exactly is going on. When we think that we're seeing some kind of respite in some of the attacks, but he has warned that there seems to be a resurgence in the issue of counterinsurgency in that part of the country. Give us an understanding of what would have gone wrong.
Good evening, listeners. It is actually true that the insurgents have been degraded. And what happens in that situation is that they begin to disintegrate. They get disorganized, their activities are disrupted, and in so doing, they break into splinters so that it becomes an issue of survival. They start making efforts to see that they don't go down alone. They also exploit the idea that perhaps if they are running out of money or maybe food, they start looking for other means of surviving. And these are the kind of situation that enhances these sort of activities from the insurgents. Usually when operations are conducted in this manner, first of all, we go through some stages of the operation in which the operation is shaped. Okay, we deter, we also seize, and then we dominate the area. From domination, you go to stabilization. And then from stabilization, you hand over to civil power. So you now find out that in the process, there could be some gaps. Gaps in the sense that when the troops move forward from maybe captured locations and try to exploit further, there might be room where perhaps the review of the concept does not cover some areas, and then these insurgents, they exploit those kind of situations. Not only that, they want to take revenge. Maybe they feel that, oh, these people from this community might have been the one that reported them and the rest of it. So those are the kind of circumstances that bring this kind of situation into the theater. But there are also, when this kind of thing happens, commanders on the ground know what to do. And it's quite interesting to find that the governor is right in front of this operation and is making a lot of efforts with the support of the military, telling us that he's going to consult with them and then they will take appropriate action.
So, General, if I may jump in quickly. So it then means that what it means is that our troops need to be permanently on the ground to be able to curtail or stop attacks. What about the issue of retrieval of the military and align the civil policing in that area to be able to maintain civil engagement within that area? Because one would think that, from what we understand, that there are a lot of the military activities will have doused since they say they've decimated these terrorists.
Okay, thank you for that question. And I was just gradually moving into that particular aspect. What happens is that the situation within the battle space or spread across the battle space is not always the same. So it's like you are advancing through a particular location, and then you move from that location after capturing to another location. Now, what we do is we begin to graduate the locations according to the threats that are available there. Where the insurgents are actually occupying, we graduate them from 5 to 1. So at 5 is intense threat. Okay, and then at 4 is the relative threat. At 3 is perhaps containable threat. So you keep going down until you go to 1. And
isn't there, sorry, apologies, General, isn't there a digital way to manage these threats? Haven't we graduated to the point that we can remotely monitor the activities based on the encroachment on the borders, or this guerrilla warfare is so planted in our society and the communities there that is so difficult to manage digitally or remotely?
Well, this aspect of the question now is looking at how to profile solution to the issues on the field. And now we are just trying to discuss aspects that has to do with what might have been responsible. Okay, and then are there various elements that are supposed to be on the ground? If you say there is intense threat, it should be purely military. And then where there is a lower threat, below intense threat, you are talking about military and maybe counter-terror policemen. Okay, and then coming down, you now start talking about some elements of the military at maybe level 3, and then start talking about some elements of the military and mobile police, and maybe a few counter-terror police. And then when you go to 1, you're talking about just the regular policemen. So, but at no time should the space be open for people to just freely walk in. There are other things that can be done to also ward off these people. And perhaps when we come to profiling solutions, then we'll be discussing those areas. Okay,
just a moment, General. Let me bring in Mr. Kabiru Adamu, who is Executive Director of Beacon Consulting, a security setup that's come up with a report on the state of security in the land. Mr. Adamu, if you look at what is going on and the statement of the governor of Borno State about the resurgence in this issue, and he has raised a question on counter-insurgency operations around that region. What, in your mind, could have been responsible?
Thank you, Sheung. In simple terms, it's the inability of the Nigerian state, especially the security forces, to win the hearts and minds of the people. Terrorism, in simple terms, is a battle of hearts and minds. The enemy takes advantage of vulnerabilities, sometimes using socioeconomic issues, sometimes ideological, sometimes political, and then attempts to either recruit or sometimes force the people to participate in its activities. Now, over time, the last 11, 12 years, we've not done very well in our ability to change this narrative and get the people to support us. It's essentially an asymmetric warfare where the enemy is embedded inside the communities. Just last week or thereabout, the new speaker of the Borno State Assembly went on air to the hearing of the whole world and said his local government, which is Gudamala, is still in the hands of the bad guys, as it were. So clearly, that ability to win the hearts and minds of the people, and by doing that, suffocate this enemy, we've not been able to do that. And the simple reason for that is we've concentrated too much on kinetic warfare. The last time I was told, and General can confirm this, we use about 80% of kinetic warfare and then 20% of the non-kinetic component. I must commend the Borno state government for coming up with several components of this non-kinetic approach. And you remember that recently, starting from about 2 years ago, several of these insurgents were, submitting themselves and surrendering. A significant part of that is because of this non-kinetic component.
So now, what can we do? And I asked the general a question, and it took us to the field, trying to give us a pictorial and a graphic portrayal of what could have gone wrong and what we need to start thinking about. But from research that have come up, is there any kind of gap that we have seen so far in the confidence building mechanism or the kind of communication that the military and the government has given the people of Nigeria as to the progress of the fight against insurgency? Has there been any kind of gap? Has there been any kind of relapse so far?
We have a coordinator, counter-terrorism, and frankly, I can't remember when last I heard any statement from that office. Specifically, it's possible that the office is working on the ground. It's possible that it's doing a lot, but the level of engagement with Nigerians, particularly with the residents of the affected location, the 3 states of Borno, Yobe, and Adamawa, I think there is room for improvement there. Also, very interestingly, we have the countering violent extremism component of our counter-terrorism strategy. The level of implementation of that component is not very transparent. I can't recall any time in the recent past where there has been any attempt by any of the implementers of that approach to give us a sense of where we are. I just gave you an indication that we're probably doing 80% kinetic and 20% non-kinetic. So to that extent, I think there is a huge gap. The third point for a simple counter-terrorism approach would be to achieve 3 things. Deny them the ability to recruit new members, deny them the ability to generate funding, and then deny them the ability to obtain equipment. Now, sadly, I think there's room for improvement in these 3 areas that I've mentioned.
Let me take you through the report, the security report that Beacon Consulting, your company, released. You've been consistent in releasing reports on security situation in the country, at least in the last several months. And the one that you released in the month of May, let me take Nigerians through what that report represents. And I'm worried now with the cases in Plateau State. Thank God we have General Atolagbe with us on the program, who had served in Jos before in Plateau State, where we're seeing fatalities as much as 126 in the month of May alone. So this is worrying. But let me take you through, everyone, what all of these issues are. There are events, abductions. You can see the figures and how they have gone. There seems to be a low in some areas in abduction. In fatality, you could see how things have gone. Abductions and fatalities in raid, ambush, combat, crossfire. You can see crossfire, ambush. There are rising issues in fatalities, and the rising number of in raid in some parts of the month. But take a look at abduction and fatalities in the North Central. By region, you will see how things have gone. Southwest, South-South, Southeast, Northwest has perhaps the second highest. The North Central has the highest with 261 fatalities, abduction 66. And we've seen Northwest with more abductions, which is 69. You look at events of abductions in the month of May, the weeks and how things have gone, you can see the projection. But where, again, I have some kind of worry is the state-by-state report of fatalities. Plateau has the highest, 126, followed by Borno, 123, and Benue, 51. Give us a summary of what these reports represent, Mr. Adamu.
In simple terms, it is the use of data. Modern intelligence, as it were, is really all about data. And we realized that there was a huge gap in your program. Previously used the term that it appears our security, departments have this morbid fear for data, and so we saw that gap, and then we attempted to close that gap. Within 2 minutes, you can have a visualization that would give you the 774 local governments of Nigeria. And from that visualization, you would know which local government within a period had more of a particular security incident. Using abduction as an example, you'll be able to see from that clearly which local government was affected by abduction, which one was abducted by the several other violent crimes that we're monitoring. And if I was the commander, as an example, the National Security Advisor or the Chief of Defense Staff or the Inspector General of Police, I would know which resources to deploy on the basis of this visualization that I've been able to gather. So that's, in summary, what we've attempted to do for the past 24 months. We've been publishing this reports, sharing it with the security agencies, trying to get them to understand the relevance of the collection, collation, analysis, and the dissemination of reports using data. And then more importantly, to allow this as a decision-making tool for managers at that level. We are short of resources. I think nobody is in doubt about that. And where you are able to deploy these resources in a judicious manner using this type of trend analysis, then I think the value for money for Nigerians. And what is that value for money? Reducing the threat vulnerabilities of the average Nigerian in my village, in your village, and every other Nigerian across the 774 local governments.
Before I bring back General Atolagbe, quickly, the shakeup that we've seen in the top hierarchy of the Nigerian military and in the leadership from President Tinubu, after his third week with the big stick, got a new team to work with him on issue of security. Give us your view on the kind of people that has been appointed and the kind of job that is done in this appointment. Will it help? What are the issues that you have? Quickly, sir.
Okay, on a general note, I think it's the first step. These individuals will be implementing the national security strategy and then the several other policies that we have in place. And there are challenges within the structure and the institutions that they are going to inherit. So they would need the support of the government, the support, especially the executive and legislative arm, and every Nigerian. In terms of them as individuals, as persons, I have no doubt in their capacity. I also think the president has made a very bold statement by deviating from what we've seen in the last, since 1999. When military generals were appointed as the National Security Advisor. So he's made a bold statement to say that I would want a civilian, and I strongly agree with him. I think it's time that we give a non-military person that opportunity. We've tried the military, and we've seen what they've been able to do. So let someone who is non-military now give it a try. In doing that, I'm hoping that the occupant of that office now would have a global look at the security structure that we have in Nigeria. The other time I was in your program, you showed the 29 ministries, departments, and agencies. I would expect that individual to see how each and every component of that 29 can contribute to national security, and then how all the elements of our national power, including our diplomacy, can contribute to the achievement of our revised National Strategy 2019. Now, for the service chiefs, especially the Chief of Defense Staff, his role is to coordinate the other arms and provide that military apparatus, that structure that every Nigerian will be proud of. Of course, the Inspector General of Police as the lead agency in internal security units, I would strongly urge him to look closely at the area of intelligence. And by intelligence, I mean modern intelligence. I just spoke about data. he, with all the police commands that he has spread across the 36 states and then the other divisions that he has, will be in a good position, cooperating and collaborating with the civil defense, with the immigration, with customs and the several others, to have adequate intelligence that would be able to tell him indicators of national security events even before they happen, and then he addresses them. Because his role really is preventative and not necessarily reactive. It's usually when he feels that the military will come in. So I'm quite confident with the team that has been gathered. If we give them the right atmosphere and the right support, I'll be quite delighted with what they'll be able to do.
Let's anchor on this issue of security with General Talagbe, and I'd like him to weigh in on some of the issues that you have raised. General, give us an understanding of the way forward, the solution, a new president, there are new top brass, the new leadership in the military. Some of these people are your junior in the military, and the way to go under a new president. And one of the few times that we have a president without a military background. What do you hope that will be done to ensure Nigeria is more secured?
Thank you very much. Let me start from the top. We agree with me that there is a general discourse that the current president is well grounded in leadership and in governance, drawing from the fact that he is coming from so many areas, not just the military. So if we look at that aspect, we see a situation where somebody is actually prepared or has all what it takes to hold the reins, of leadership. Now, coming to these officers that have been appointed, I think it's just time that we are gradually having the right set of people in leadership, in the sense that these are officers that we taught in staff college on the aspect of maneuverist approach to warfare. And Bakwaja happened to be a TS under me when I was chief instructor. So I know these guys very well, and I know their capabilities, their intelligent set of people. And I also know that with the experiences they have had on the field, it also adds to their competencies, because they have been there and they will be able to tell exactly how it was, and how, in fact, they can even project and advise those that are on the field that, look, that location, if you go there, you need to consult with the leadership of the village, and then they will give you the necessary humans, that is human intelligence that you require, or the necessary support that you require to make sure that you succeed in that area. These are the kind of advantages that these appointments will offer. I also wish that they also have some international experiences also, because most of their jobs are not confined to internal operations. We induct troops outside the country. We give support to other countries in West Africa and other parts of the world. So, I mean, I'm confident that these guys are the right choices and they will deliver.
General Atalagbe, a former commander of Operation Safe Haven and former field commander of the JTF and commander of the SCF and commander of the UNAMI. Thank you so much, General, for your time, as well as Dr. Kabiru Adamu, the Executive Director of Beacon Consulting, a security consultant. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for your time tonight.
Thank you for having us.
We'll take a break, and when we come back, what is INEC up to? And why would they be doing an appraiser at this period? These are some of the questions some people may be asking. Is the appraiser really important at the time that everyone is in court challenging the outcome of the election at different levels? We'll be back with an expert's opinion on the issues to be expected. Join us again, everyone. Welcome back, everyone. The Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, has resolved to conduct a post-election review of the 2023 general elections in line with its usual practice over the last years. This was contained in a statement that was signed by the INEC National Commissioner on Information and Voter Education, Mr. Festus Okoye, one of those that permanently kept mute since the conduct of the election. He released that statement yesterday and says that this is their usual way of doing an appraisal of the election. And tonight we'll be dissecting what this appraisal really is, and for some of those who have monitored the process. It would have been interesting to hear from INEC directly to exactly know the timing and the process of this appraisal. But tonight, I'm being joined by the Executive Director of, say that again?
Chairman,
Partners for Electoral Reforms, and a member of the board of Yaga Africa, Mr. Ezenwa Nwagu. Thank you so much indeed for joining us tonight.
Thank you.
I appreciate it. So, I mean, I'm sure when we were having a pre-chat, you said this is nothing new about this appraisal. But what do you make of it? Give us your insight into it.
Well, I think that it's important that after a very huge, elaborate task like the general election, that there is need for stock taking, there is need for introspection, and there is also need for some kind of audit. You were talking in your prefacing, you were talking about the judicial oversight and reviews that are going on. And like I told you when we were talking, people who win elections don't approach the court. It's losers who go to court, actually. So that is they are challenging the fact that they may or could have won the election. But this is an administrative, introspective look by the institution that manages election. And I was going to come here, like I said, with the 2011, 2015, no, 2007, 2015, 2011, 2015, 2019 reports. Those reports are products of this engagement, these reviews. So INEC is able to say, pre-election, how did we do with voter registration? How did we perform with logistics issues? How did we perform with voting and accreditation? How did we do with collation of results? And all of those things. And then they are able to also bring those who manage the election at subnational level. The statement that we all have seen talks about the fact that they are going to have this retreat, if you like, with both the ad hoc staff that manage the elections, the resident electoral commissioners, electoral officers, and that will be the first level engagement. And after that, they will then broaden it to other stakeholders. And I think, like I said, it's a ritual really for the Independent National Electoral Commission. And when we now say they are trying to, they have said to, it's supposed to be something that yes, they should. It
is part of their internal administrative process. But don't forget that this is not only internal. It is also, they have external engagement. Actually, they will start with a retreat on the 5th of July.
After they have done
the 4th of July, and end with the Commission's retreat on the 5th of August.
Yes.
So there is the Rex we meet on the 4th of July.
Yes.
Then the whole exercise will take about a month. In fact, a month exactly.
Yeah.
Because the whole thing will end with a retreat on the 5th of August. Now, they will do the national level, they will do the state level, and they will do with local government and heads of departments across the level, and presiding officers, coalition and returning officers. But there will be an external engagement, which will involve the stakeholders like political parties, security agencies, election observer, the media and service providers such as transporters, and those who facilitated the movement of personnel and materials for the election. So there is the external part and there is the internal part. But in all, you would explain that this is an administrative process. But one thing is critical here, the timing. Don't you think there's something?
I don't think there's anything. Indeed, they have stalled, if you ask me.
So that's a question.
If you ask me, and the reason is also part of what you raised. They wanted all the court processes to get to some point, so that they are then able to speak freely in those.
But the court cases wouldn't have ended.
No, they may not.
By the 4th of July.
No, they may not have ended, but they will have substantially they progress to the point where INEC will no longer be the. You are supposed to, in many cases, state resident electoral commissioners are being subpoenaed. They are being asked to present documents. I think majorly most of all of those things have.
I don't think there's anything wrong in an appraiser or a postmortem or an assessment.
Yes.
So, but I'm just asking my question based on the position of the law. If, for example, the courts are asking questions on how the IRF worked or did not work, how the beavers worked or did not work, whether or not there are clearly printed results or not. These are issues that are being determined in the courtroom as we speak. But if INEC goes ahead to do a postmortem, officer this or officer that, why didn't you upload the result, or why did you upload the result, or you are giving direct questions to what is being done, which some people will say it's subjudicial.
No, I don't agree with you. Like I said, the administrative.
So it's a question I'm asking.
Yeah, so I said the administrative engagement with the processes of the election, in my view, and my humble view, if you like to qualify that, is important for INEC to put the mirror before itself and say, how did we do?
Which is not a wrong thing.
No, it has nothing to do with the judicial. It does not affect, because for instance, the people who approach the court, like I told you, are just a section of those who. For instance, observers are not in court. They have no reason to be.
But political parties are going to be part of the engagement.
No, political parties who are in court are not the ones who feel shortchanged.
Yeah, but I'm saying the engagement of INEC
you have 18 political parties.
Yes.
All those 18 political parties are not in court. Okay? And there is an umbrella organization for political parties. That, what do you call them now?
IPAC.
IPAC as an organization is not in court. They will be invited by INEC as IPAC. Ordinarily, INEC does not invite individual political parties. It will be that umbrella organization of the political parties and their leadership that will come for this engagement. And it's a one-off thing. It's simply, if Shehu can be part of that conversation, I can be, any other person can be, who INEC thinks will add value. In fact, if you read that statement, they are already asking for stakeholders to make recommendations which they can take along towards the end of that statement if you go to it. So I don't in any way think that it invades in any material particular on judicial inquisition on the election, because, like I said, IPAC is not in court. It is some political parties who, and I told you, winners don't go to court. It is people who lost election that are challenging the result. It does not affect anything in terms of what INEC can introspect on and fish out things that can help them improve, future elections. Those reports that I talk about is the same process. It has gone on, and it goes on almost at the same time that this is coming. It doesn't come after the court, all the court cases.
Do you think that it will have any impact on the cases that are going on presently?
I have answered you, Shehu. I don't think it will have any impact, because the people who are in court will have had their materials, the issues for which they are going to. If INEC is required to go to court, INEC will go to court and present. INEC is not in court. INEC is dragged to court. I don't know if you understand. It is INEC that is being dragged to court to come. INEC is not defending anything. It is you who said they didn't do well that has the burden to prove that they did not do well. They have said, we have organized this election to the best of our ability, according to the law, according to the guidelines, according to the manuals. The court is interrogating that. But it does not stop them from looking at how did we fare with issues around logistics, how did we fare with the issue of voter registration, how did we fare with the issue of administration of the election in terms of vendor INEC relationship. Did the marine transport workers, did they effectively, were there issues in terms of even payment? You remember the cashless policy thing, you remember the fuel issues. How did it affect you? What can we do better next time to be able to get this out?
You look like Section 65 of the new Section 65 compared to Section 68 of the electoral law. And these are some of those issues that have come in previous engagement with INEC that have led to the review of the law and led to the signing or the passage of the Electoral Act 2022. And a lot of people will say this kind of engagement also will be necessary if it will have any effect that could lead to any change in our electoral law. But from your own point of view, as INEC is preparing, because you are one person that sat through the processes, you had several engagement in and outside of Nigeria on what INEC should do and what they must do. But in a matter of introspection, let's help INEC before their stakeholders meeting begin. If there are critical areas that they need to look into, which areas would these be?
I think, for instance, for me, is the fact that the INEC has to be a bit forward-looking in terms of challenges, what challenges that could, so that they don't hoist, the regime of excuses that we see, for instance, with the issue of these perennial logistics challenges. Is perennial. No cure for it. But the interventions that came in 2023 was meant to have cushioned the issue of why is logistics an issue. Logistics affects opening of polls. If polls don't open on time, it affects, you now have to elongate the hours of participation. And sometimes people get, wary of all of that, and then it could lead to reduction in the number of people who vote. So you have to deal with these logistics challenges. Unforeseen circumstances like what will happen to the issue of cash, which became a problem in 2023. I didn't see the reason why INEC could not have, since this law has already said that they should have their money 1 year before.
So, this is one of the issues also that was raised, which made them to get their money early enough. They made that
yes, but what happened is that sometimes these monies are not released, even when the law says so. And being territorial, as you know, government officials are sometimes, they protect each other in terms of exposing. And remember, we kept saying, if they had the money early, perhaps the issue of that unfortunate coloring of the naira may not have come up. The issue of fuel scarcity, the issue of banditry and insecurity that has escalated towards the 2023.
What about human factors? Human factors within INEC?
No, of course, there are, of course, issues around subterfuge, internal subterfuge, and the rest of them, which could have happened. But what is interesting is that this law that you are quoting has penalty sanctions for dereliction of duties. If an INEC official refuses to upload results, for instance, this law says he can go to jail, and pay a fine, but he's not going to go to court, to jail until somebody makes a report. So
that's why the issue of the Electoral Offences Commission has also been raised.
Yes, somebody has to make a report. But even at that, you don't need an offences report if you feel that an INEC official should have done something and he didn't do it.
In any case, there are those who argue that you don't even need a special person to do that. That naturally, the power of the police in Nigeria they have powers to prosecute just any crime in the country.
You could have just said you have said so. Why are you saying some people have said? Between the two of us, I have argued that the law says that they have responsibility to enforce all laws. So this, thing about electoral offenses is important for effectiveness and all of that, but it does not outsource the responsibility.
So, because the question is that the laws are there, the punishments are there, but what is going on?
Hold on. Yeah. Why do you have a party agent? Sometimes people don't understand. You have a party agent to defend your interests in the polling unit. You understand?
Yeah.
So if results are not uploaded, for instance, and you made a point about that, and the presiding officer could not sufficiently give you, you make a note of it. In polling unit, so and so and so, I approached this man, he derelicted on his duty. But the big challenge is that party agency is a transactional one in Nigeria. The people who do party agent in party A in the morning can become party agent for party B in the evening. And immediately the election is over, they walk away.
Maybe INEC will also need to look into, especially what happened in Adamawa, and perhaps think of a better administrative ways, because the roles of a REC and who announces the result is very clear. We don't know what has happened to the REC in Adamawa. We understand that it was being invited by the police.
The chief returning officer for the country. There is a chief returning officer for the country.
For the presidential election.
No, for the country. Is the chief returning officer for the country. So if he says, Sheung, you go to Imo as returning officer, the power you're exercising is his own, is his power. You get what I'm saying? Yeah. So those returning officers that have been appointed exercise the power of the chief returning officer of the country. So those resident electoral commissioners have not challenged this over time. That is a place for reform.
Yeah.
That is an opening for conversation about reform. Whether the chief, because what happened was that under Professor Jega, Professor Jega was the one announcing the federal, but there were issues of integrity within INEC at that time, which led to the outsourcing of that power to academics. Now, we have retained that process in spite of the challenges that we have seen with it.
And now it's rearing its head again.
It's rearing its head
and we've seen in the case in, was it Akwa Ibom now, with when Mike Igini was wrecked, and that case had gone to court.
Yes.
But on the final note, Mr. Nwagu.
Final already.
Now time flies. On the final note, I mean, if INEC is looking in the mirror and they're trying to do some introspection, because we've not really had an explanation on IREF, which was supposed to be a game changer. We saw what happened in Ekiti. We saw what happened in Osun. There hasn't been any explanation as to what technically or technologically or digitally or internet-wise.
That explanation is important to assuage, but it is not contingent on understanding. If Sheung writes an examination and the result of that exam is marked, I mean, that exam is marked right where you are, the result is given to you. The process of examination is over when you have a result. So if it is not pasted, if the result is not pasted or pasted,
you can call for the result.
You can call for it, but already you have the result.
But when you have told me that when your result, we will send it to your email.
No, but it was marked in your presence. No, it was marked in your presence.
Yeah.
Because the polling unit is the center of elections. And in that place, results are announced in the polling unit.
Yeah.
That result is entered into Form EC8A and given to a party agent and given to a security man before it is uploaded. So parties already have custody of these results. INEC is only giving you an audit system, providing for you as a party an audit system to say, if what we have given to you here at the polling unit, you are not satisfied with it, we have somewhere else you can also go to. But you now leave the man who has responsibility to have a result, and you are talking about the auditor. I mean, there's something fundamentally not sitting well on that argument.
There needs to be a robust conversation on what happened in 2023 and how we can make it better.
Here.
Thank you so much. Eze Nwagu, we call him Eze, Chief. Thank you so much indeed for your time. Chairman, Partners for Electoral Reforms, and a member of the board of Yaga Africa. Thank you so much indeed. Well, that's our show for tonight. I'll see you on Sunday at 8 p.m. Thank you so much, everyone.